Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, a Spotlight podcast. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
Well, sustainability has become more than just a buzzword. It's driving innovation in all industries, including some you may not have even considered. Here to teach us more about a revolutionary construction process called MassTimber is the Director of MassTimber at MSU, Sandra Lupien. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thanks, Chris.
So, Michigan State University recently built its new STEM building using this new construction technique called MassTimber. Can you explain generally what MassTimber is?
Yeah, MassTimber is a type of building construction material that began emerging from Europe probably 40 years ago and has been making its way into the United States for the last decade, a little bit more than a decade. It's an umbrella term for a variety of engineered wood building construction materials that are typically comprised of panels put together in various configurations. And they are often very large members is a construction term, but large pieces of wood. So think of a big column or a big beam or even a big flat panel that you might drop into a wall.
Okay.
Different types of materials. You might have heard of glue laminated timber or cross laminated timber, but think of layers of 2x4s or 2x6s put together in layers to create different structural properties. And you can use these materials in sustainable ways in place of materials like steel or concrete, so they have those same types of structural properties in building construction.
Okay. So what makes that a real value for like architects and engineers and for the construction industry as a whole? You mentioned using that instead of other materials. Is it an expense? Is it an ease? Is it a strength?
Yeah, there's a number of different kinds of benefits that are driving interest in MassTimber, but I think the first and most important one to consider is sustainability. So the idea that we can reduce the carbon footprints of our buildings by using materials that have properties that make them have lower carbon footprints. So a material like MassTimber, which is made of wood, right? Wood is a renewable material. It typically is it produces less carbon dioxide emissions to source, to manufacture, and to transport. And then wood, let's kind of think back to our science classes in junior high school. Photosynthesis, trees absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere when they're in forests. Wood stores that carbon. So in trees stored in their tree trunks and their roots, et cetera. When you harvest wood and you use it to make building materials, you're continuing to store that carbon. Trees and wood are about 50% carbon. So you're storing that carbon in the built environment. So then your building becomes basically a little carbon storage center. So other building materials don't have this particular property. So you're having lower carbon dioxide emissions to make it, to transport it, and then you're actually storing carbon in the building. So that's an exciting kind of value proposition for MassTimber.
Right.
So companies, like even large companies, say something like Microsoft, that have big environmental social governance goals, ESG, are looking to things like MassTimber as a way to help to achieve those goals within their basically their corporate model. So if we build our new buildings out of MassTimber, we're helping to kind of offset some of the carbon emissions associated with others of our activities, for example. So sustainability is a big driver of MassTimber.
Right on. Okay. So how did Michigan State University get involved in maybe are you at the forefront of the MassTimber in the U.S.?
I think it's safe to say that we are in the Great Lakes region. Since MassTimber started making its way into the United States, mostly via the Pacific Northwest, kind of the action started there, and there's so much going on there that we look to. But in the Great Lakes region, I think it's absolutely safe to say that MSU is leading this, leading thought leadership, action, research, education on MassTimber. So our involvement in MassTimber came at a time when, we were looking to build a new building on the Michigan State University campus, the STEM teaching and learning facility. This was going to be a landmark building on the campus, state of the art, et cetera. Leaders in the department that I'm based in, the Department of Forestry, thought, wow, we're starting to hear a lot about this material called MassTimber, and we see the benefits for forests, we see the benefits in buildings, and what if we could make this building the first mass timber structure in Michigan. So they started talking with university administration, and eventually the decision got made happily to, let's go first with mass timber on our campus in Michigan. So that's how it started. Meanwhile, the state of Michigan, particularly the Department of Natural Resources, the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, were seeing mass timber as a potential way to create new rural economic development opportunities in forested communities by way of perhaps bringing mass timber manufacture to Michigan. So that became an interest for them. So they saw with MSU and other stakeholders, nonprofit organizations in Michigan, saw an opportunity to kind of create this centralized hub and a position in Michigan that would kind of be, I call myself basically the mass timber cheerleader for Michigan, right?
Right.
In summary. And so they, MDARD and DNR, those state agencies, came together with MSU to create a new position. And I am supported with funding from those state agencies, and that's how it happened. So my position launched in July of 2021. And so it's been just over a year that I've been here in the seat, and really excited about the momentum we're seeing here in Michigan.
Fantastic. So it sounds like there was no mistake that the STEM building is where mass timber was put into. It seems to be in the spirit of the STEM curriculum. For those not familiar, remind everyone what STEM really is all about.
Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics curriculum. And it's the building is a hub for incoming freshmen and sophomores who are taking those core courses as part of their early college years. And so it's really a hub and basically a hub where they can just come and be for all of those courses, which is amazing because these courses used to be distributed all over campus, as people who are MSU alum will know. So yes, it is no mistake. And really, the building itself is really cool, and I welcome people to contact me for a tour. But it is on the site that used to be the Shaw Lane coal-fired power plant. So they've taken this approach of kind of recreating this site that used to produce energy from coal and making it both a more sustainable building as well as kind of like a living laboratory for both these types of mass timber materials. I bring people through the building several times a week and show them this is how we did it. If you're in the architecture, engineering, and construction field, here you can do it too. Your clients are asking for this. Come see our building and we can tell you what we learned. That's definitely a way we're leveraging it. And so it's really a learning laboratory for this type of materials, but also, yes, it's a very well-aligned type of material for this building.
Right. Now, the construction industry obviously needs to learn how to do this, right? So if you're going to find a construction partner to build an 80,000 square foot, 3-story building on a plot of land, they probably have their own way. Their clients probably don't instruct them how they want it built. They just have their own way. So my point is, how has the construction industry learned this new process and embraced this new process? And is it more expensive for them to do it this way, or is it actually cheaper? Kind of talk about how the construction teams have folded into this.
Yeah, as with any new technology, there's a learning curve for those who practice in that space. And in this case, that's primarily architects, engineers, and folks in the construction industry who build these buildings. We are working to provide kind of technical assistance for folks in those communities, but a few things are really important to know. One, mass timber is not a commodity product. You don't go to Home Depot and buy a mass timber. You work with a manufacturer from the start of your project, and they design and then fabricate all of the pieces that are going to be in your building exactly to the specifications that you tell them. So they're cut to the right length. Openings for windows and doors are already fabricated when they come to your building site. Holes are pre-drilled so that you can put your connectors in where they need to go. And those manufacturers are key design and project planning partners for architects and construction companies and engineers who are operating in this space. So they have this partner from the get-go who really helps move them through the process. And that's really key. What we've learned is that especially from the folks who built our STEM facility, neither the architect nor the general contractor nor the erector of the building, none of them had ever done a mass timber project before. It was the first time for all of them. And what they will tell you is it's not rocket science. We had some things to learn. We had a learning curve. It wasn't that steep. And we all want to make more of these buildings in the future. So they did it once and now they want to do more. And I think that's really telling that, yes, you have to kind of think through new processes and procedures. But once you learn it, then you can really accrue a lot of efficiencies that make it easier to build a building more quickly using these types of materials. even more quickly than other types of materials. And when you asked about the cost of a mass timber building versus perhaps a more traditional steel or concrete commercial structure, what we've seen about cost is that oftentimes because the materials are emerging and the supply chain is a little bit limited for mass timber still in North America, usually the materials up front might cost a little bit more. But what we see is that because this building is customized, it's prefabricated, and it goes up a little bit like an erector set. If you ever watch like a time-lapse video of a mass timber building, it's pretty cool. It goes up a little bit like an erector set. So what ends up happening is you can save time and thus a lot of cost on the time that it takes to build the building. So you have to think about it a little bit differently when you're costing it out and think about it holistically. So for our STEM facility, again, first time we'd ever done this, we calculated that it cost us about 2% more to build with mass timber than it would have cost us to just do a steel and concrete structural system. And we were happy to kind of take that on as a university because of all of the other benefits that we knew this building would bring.
Got it. Okay. So you've touched on a lot of things, but I'd like to kind of hit it. How mass timber can affect maybe Michigan's economy. Mm-hmm. You talked about it. So I guess the beams or the product that is used needs to be manufactured somewhere, right? So the construction company doesn't go to Home Depot and buy these sheets of plywood, right? I mean, these need to be ordered, manufactured, and kind of delivered, right? So do we have a manufacturer in Michigan that is doing that now? And if not, are we trying to get that to happen? How does that work?
We do not have anyone manufacturing mass timber in Michigan yet. We are very excited about the opportunity to have that happen, right? I think, yes, if we could see a mass timber manufacturer locating in Michigan and using wood from Michigan forests, using wood from other areas in the region perhaps to make glue laminated timber, cross laminated timber, whatever types of mass timber products might make sense here in Michigan, given kind of the amount of product or of resources that we might have, plus the different species of wood that we have here. That would be a great opportunity to kind of create new jobs in forests, new jobs in manufacturing, new jobs in fabrication, because again, like I said, this is a value-added product that requires fabrication. New jobs perhaps making connectors for that fit with these wood products, right? So there's a lot of opportunity to kind of see some new job creation. There's also a lot of opportunity to see revitalization of some of our forest products industry that maybe have been a little bit less robust in recent decades than in the past. So how can we harness those opportunities? And certainly, I will say that the Michigan Carpenters, the union, is very excited about mass timber. They recently opened their new Detroit training facility. They opened a new training facility up in the UP and another one in Wayland. And they're planning to house mass timber construction training programs within their usual apprenticeship curriculum in those facilities. And so we're really seeing people are like, yeah, we got to get on board here. This is happening. We're seeing demand increase. We know that we need to be ready to go. Is
it part of your role to try to foster those programs and getting the unions to have these training classes and try to court a manufacturing facility? I mean, is that part of your role? I didn't really research exactly what your job description entails.
I should have said. So my program is Mass Timber at MSU. My position as director of that program is really to understand what's going on in the mass timber landscape throughout the state. Who wants to build with it? Who could be building with it? Who might be a good candidate to manufacture it? What other stakeholders need to be engaged? And then figure out, what are the barriers? What are the opportunities? And how can MSU, as the land-grant university in Michigan, really kind of work to remove barriers, harness opportunities, build relationships with stakeholders, and make connections so that we can get more mass timber in buildings in Michigan and also realize mass timber manufacturing here. Mm-hmm.
Well, you're clearly a heck of a champion for this cause. What did you do before this? You mentioned you got this role in 2021. You're not a new graduate. So how have you spent your professional career up until this time?
Well, I've done a variety of things, and I'm a newer graduate than you might think. I spent the last 15 years of my career working primarily in a variety of different climate change and sustainability positions, mostly in stakeholder engagement and policy advocacy. When I was in my early 40s, I went back to school and I did a Master of Public Policy at UC Berkeley. I had been living in California. I am a Michigan native, but I was gone for quite a long time and just came back for this position. I did a Master of Public Policy, and focused on climate change, and I got very interested in what was going on in California forests at that time, and how could we make sustainable products out of wood that needed to come off California forest in order to achieve healthier forest density. That's a long way of saying I found out about MassTimber as a solution to that challenge in California. I did my Master of Public Policy thesis on how could California remove the barriers to the manufacture and adoption of MassTimber. And then when I found out that there was a position here in Michigan, which is where I grew up, I spent the first 24 years of my life here, to help harness the benefits of MassTimber here, I was like, A, is this real? Did I write this for myself? Am I dreaming? And then I said, please me, and raised my hand and ran here.
Good for you. Now, and then recently there was delegates from Finland were here. Were they here to look at the STEM building and learn more about MassTimber? Yeah, was that their curriculum or why they came here? Part
of it. The Finland delegation is part of a collaboration under a memorandum of understanding signed by Governor Whitmer a couple of years ago to collaborate on a variety of different activities related to sustainable economic development and other things. Forest economic development, forest products is one of those things. The delegation from Finland started in the UP, and they visited the laboratory actually at Michigan Tech University, where one of our collaborators is developing MassTimber from Michigan hardwood, so trying that out as a material for MassTimber. They went there, they did a bunch of other activities, then they came to our STEM facility, took a tour, checked out the MassTimber, and then they went to the laboratory of my colleague in forestry, Dr. Mojga Najad, who's developing adhesives made from lignin, which is an extract from trees for application in a variety of products, including in cross-laminated timber, a type of MassTimber. So they had several MassTimber kind of activities while they were here, but there were other activities as well. And, from this point forward, we'll be looking at finding ways that we can collaborate with those folks in Finland who are engaged in this space. We don't know what that looks like yet, but we discussed a number of different possibilities.
Well, it sounds exciting for sure. It sounds like you gave them a good show.
We had a blast. It was a lot of fun.
So you were recognized recently as a notable leader in sustainability by Crain's Detroit Business. What does that mean to you and the credibility of this industry, and how do you leverage that to keep the momentum going?
Yeah, thanks for that. It was very exciting to be included on that list with so many amazing leaders in Michigan, many of whom I've been aware of and following their careers in leadership for a long time. So that was quite amazing. I was most excited that that having my name on that list would get the words MassTimber in front of a broader audience in Michigan. And I thought, okay, this is really a great moment for MassTimber, and just a sign that we're making a lot of progress. We're seeing a lot of momentum. And I do want to mention the momentum, right? We have this STEM facility on the MSU campus. I'm aware of at least 24 other buildings in Michigan where they're either definitely going to use MassTimber or where they're studying it very seriously and, figuring out for their clients, how do we proceed with this? How do we make this happen? And those are many different types of buildings, from, other types of university buildings, K through 12 buildings, but also affordable housing, multi-unit affordable housing, which soft spot in my heart for that. We need a lot more of it. Yep. Can we bring MassTimber to the table for that? Yes, please. So that's exciting. But they're also, I thought, maybe they would just be concentrated in, the urban areas where you would think. They're all over the state. Several of them in the UP, one in Traverse City, Muskegon, but then also Detroit, Ann Arbor, East Lansing. So things are happening, and we're very, very excited about MassTimber.
Well, it shows, and I'm really grateful to have stumbled upon the topic and to have you here on the guest. So we have been joined by MassTimber at MSU's director, Sandra Lupien, MassTimber at MSU. Really appreciate you joining me today, and thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a lot of fun.